This week on A Lively Experiment, infighting breaks out among some progressives in the Democratic Party. How will that affect the first congressional district race? And it's the annual pilgrimage to the State House for those on both sides of proposed gun control legislation.
A Lively Experiment is generously underwritten by...
Hi, I'm John Hazenwhite Jr. For over 30 years, A Lively Experiment has provided insight and analysis of the political issues that face Rhode Islanders. I'm a proud supporter of this great program and Rhode Island PBS.
Joining us on the panel, former state representative Nick Gorham, Sue Cienki, National Committeewoman for the Rhode Island Republican Party and former party chair, and political contributor Bob Walsh. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Lively. I'm Jim Hummel. It is great to have you with us this week. Two more Democrats announced that they are running to replace Congressman David Cicilline in the fall, but it was an explosive set of allegations against one of the perceived frontrunners, Aaron Regenberg, that grabbed many of the headlines later in the week. Several prominent progressives said he should not be elected to CD1. So let's start with our resident Democrat.
Only one on the panel today.
Yeah, there you go. You're in the minority for once today.
There you go.
What do you make of all this?
Well, we'll probably get to the big race in a second, but let's start with a second question about the former co-op members sending a letter against Aaron Regenberg, or a series of comments. A lengthy series of comments against Aaron Regenberg. I don't give it much weight, in all honesty. And with respect to my non-Tea Party Republican colleagues, I guess we have a little bit of a Tea Party element in the progressive side of Rhode Island that, in other words, as soon as somebody wins or is successful or is ambitious, they're going to be mad at them. If we're going to stop supporting candidates because they didn't support past candidates, we're going to run out of people to support very quickly. Aaron Regenberg is going to run on the Bernie Sanders, Elizabeth Warren lane in this Democratic primary for Congress, and that lane is pretty wide open. And most of the people criticizing him from an ideological standpoint would normally be with him. I mean, their views on national issues have some degree of overlap, and I came from that lane in my youth, in half a lifetime ago when I ran for Congress in this seat. So it's kind of surprising that this becomes well, he wasn't nice to me, he didn't support me, he's a bad tipper, which was the most interesting and most troublesome allegation.
In Rhode Island, that's a
troublesome allegation, if that's
sin.
true. But he was a college student, so maybe there wasn't much to tip with. I don't know. That's the one worth investigating. But it's odd. It's odd to say, we agree with him on all the issues, but we're mad for personal reasons, therefore he's not someone we're going to support. A candidate should kind of say, here's who we're going to support versus here's a reason not to support someone. So I was surprised.
Yeah, personality conflicts. That's what I got out of the story.
And at the end of
that
the
they
day,
were mad at him.
does the votership?
Yeah, I think that they're afraid it's going to split the progressive vote, and they'd like to see a progressive in that seat. So I think that that's what they're worried about. For me, Aaron Regenberg probably has the most money out of all those progressive candidates. So that's another reason why they're probably mad at him.
He came out of the gates with $150,000 on the first
he has
day,
the money.
and he's got that really strong progressive on the east side. So does it really matter what these other people are saying? I don't know.
Well, they want to take him down because they'd like to win. I mean, this is a grueling sport, politics. So you don't. It's
you
not
would
for
know
the
that
faint.
best, wouldn't you?
Yes, it's not for the faint of heart. What upsets me more about him running is the fact that he had a prime judicial clerkship, and he gave it up. That offends me as a lawyer, because there are so many people that is a plum job.
He beat out a lot of people.
And he beat out a lot of people, and he just gave it up for an opportunity. So he's very opportunistic to me.
I read this story about the rift in the progressive rift. I thought progressivism was all about peace, love, and understanding, and I am so terribly mistaken. They actually get vicious and mean.
They need to listen to Elvis Costello.
But I have to say, I love it. This is
Great. Well, we're glad we found some element of this that is entertaining, at least.
Let's look at the larger issue, though. So for weeks, people have been talking about Gabe Amo coming, and not many people beyond this table even know who Gabe Amo is. Did you know before?
I did know who he was, but I had family members from other states going, well, who's leaving the Biden administration to come run for Congress? I go, a relatively unknown individual.
Yeah.
So I said, I don't really give much credence to his candidacy, but we'll have to wait and see. I mean, there are 14? 14. So it's who's going to be able to organize, who's going to be able to raise the money, who's
Name recognition and money.
Yeah, right. I think this is, this is the crux of it, and this will be an issue that we get to revisit on this show from now till the September primary. 14 candidates, let's say for the sake of argument.
I thought it was going to be a really dull summer, Bob.
I know.
Congressman Cicilline leaving. I'm not. Well, it was the Hopkins report a couple of years ago. There's always something in Rhode Island.
To the extent politics is our sport, we get an extra season to play. 14 Democrats, let's say for the sake of argument that they all run. There are tiers.
How many are going to make it to the ballot?
They might all get 500 signatures is not a high hurdle. I think there'll be some reflection and introspection before the filing deadline in June where people say, wow, I didn't realize that it would cost this much. But Aaron Regenberg, when you're drawing attacks from the right and the far left, maybe that proves you're a credible candidate. And I think he is a credible candidate in that left lane. Sabina Matos, statewide elected, proven herself as a big vote getter. I think I've joked with someone you should do a trifecta box bet for those familiar with horse races. So I don't know what order they're going to finish, but I know that there's going to be a top three. I think Matos and Regenberg are in the top three no matter what. I thought and think that Sandra Cano has a legitimate claim coming out of Pawtucket and a big vote getter for Biden as delegate to be in that top three.
But not a lot of name recognition.
And I would say that Gabe Amo raising $100,000 in a day and with some decent political chops is in on that list as well.
So if he gets up on TV like Helena Folks did, maybe.
Well, TV won't be too big a deal in this race because it's only 30 to 40,000 votes.
Media, right.
Yeah, it's such a short period of time, too.
Speaking of Helena Folks, I picked her to win the Democrat primary because she had the money, the resources, the talent. And I think this guy, Don Carlson, shouldn't be underestimated. He's really, truly got a great background. Williams College, Harvard Law School. And he's had a great career and he's got a lot of money. So he's going to run a good campaign. The other person I think who's someone to watch is Gabe Amo. I think he's got a good shot. He's got a lot of credentials.
He's got a compelling story.
Yeah, he's got a great story, and he went to Moses Brown School.
So well,
how can you?
There you go.
But I wonder, Sue.
Folks didn't win though, right? On the money.
Because look, this is what you talked about in party chair. Is we have to get known. It's such a compressed schedule.
Right.
I mean, we're in the end of April, so we've got really 4
But
months,
remember,
and a lot of it's during the summertime.
This is incredibly different than the races we're normally looking at. This is a single ballot item special election.
Right. In one district.
But this is 30 to 40,000 voters, and 40,000 is a high estimate, most of whom have met at least 2 or 3 of these candidates or already voted for at least 2 or 3 of these candidates for other offices.
Too, right?
And maybe related to them as well. If you have 14 candidates in and say each can just get 1,000 votes, that's 14,000 votes off the table, and they're fighting for a very, very small number of votes left, which favors those with good organization.
Yeah, good organization and good name recognition.
Yeah,
so that's what it's going to take.
Definitely.
And you're right, it's the summertime. And that's one of the reasons that I always say our primary here
should be in May.
Should be way earlier.
Yeah.
They won't move it to the summertime because they know that it's the best time of the year here for some people. I particularly like the fall and the spring. But
they also, look, the incumbents will never do that. From having sat in the chamber. Unless, and the Secretary of State's talked about this, unless the session is going to end May 1st. You almost do it like a state where you do the every other year budget thing.
Long, short
right, it's kind of the short one.
People are paying
because,
attention.
as your opponent's knocking on doors, you're sitting in a hot chamber listening to somebody blather on,
and you're talking and voting on the budget, which is the biggest hot topic. And you don't want to have to defend your vote on the budget during a primary.
When should the primary be, do you think?
June.
Well, that was going to be my only point, is that
I thought that was going to be your outrage.
The primary being midway through an election cycle, there are so many people who are holding office. Senator Cano, Lieutenant Governor Matos. There's nothing for them to lose.
Right.
Give it a shot. It's a perfect time to run if you're already in office and you want to up your game and go to Washington. This is it.
All right, I will call on, every week I will do this, Sabina Matos and anybody else who's taking a check from the taxpayers should take a sabbatical. Taking your check for the whole time, take half of it. Don't take the full thing and say you can do both jobs. Maybe that's my outrage for the week.
I'd say,
all right,
Are you allowed to have an outrage?
Yeah, well, hey, I'm calling the shots here on who gets the
don't
outrage.
hold your breath on that.
Okay, Nick, let me stay with you. The annual pilgrimage to the State House happened this week with pro and con on the gun control bills. One of the times we had you on was we were talking about the high capacity magazines.
Yes.
And we were talking about, so that's working its way through.
Right.
There's still a challenge against that. So it looks like they're talking about safe storage, but really the one that everybody's paying attention to is the so-called, whatever you want to call them, high capacity assault rifles, whatever.
Right.
As it works its way through, Governor McKee said in his State of the State, this is something that's important to him. I wonder if you think the leadership has the stomach to pass that, given how they have been with guns. They didn't show up at that press conference when the governor said that he wanted to ban.
Maybe the House, but I don't see it getting through the Senate. However, I would say this, the Second Amendment people have to find a way to implement a law that is effective to keep guns out of the hands of crazy people, because it's going to undermine the entire concept of the Second Amendment. There are just too many people. I don't know what it is about society now, but the newest thing to do before you want to off yourself is to go out and just kill all these people. And these people should not, people like that should not have guns. And there has to be a way to stop it. And, you can regulate guns all you want, but if you can't keep guns out of the hands of those people, there's no hope. Whether you make all guns illegal or whatever, if there are people who want to go out in that blaze, there's got to be a way to stop it.
I think out of all the legislation that is up there, I can imagine that the safe storage bill has a good chance of passing.
It should.
I don't think that the AR bills, the assault rifle bills, I'm not quite sure if they'll pass. But what's interesting to note is in a state such as Rhode Island, there are only 14% of people that actually own guns in the state. It's a really low percentage. The only other states that are lower than us are Massachusetts and New Jersey.
What's that figure in Alabama, Texas, and Florida?
Yeah, it's way higher. Montana, way higher percentage of population. So it's not necessarily that we have legal gun owners that are the problem, but there's other issues within society. You're right. And where's the anger coming from? Where's the frustration coming from? It's not just because we were locked down with COVID for 3 years, but responsible gun owners are responsible gun owners. And there are just some people that are just not responsible.
This is not a new concept, though, because we've talked about this. The Senate, for 10 years, it sunsetted. There was a national ban, federal ban on assault weapons back then. Somehow Republicans and Democrats came together to pass that. It seems almost unthinkable now. But
you stole my line.
I'm sorry. Go ahead, Mr. Walsh.
That's the crux of the argument. We used to have this nationally. There's no reason for anyone to have an assault weapon. It's not a hunting weapon. You're not going to be defending yourself with an assault weapon, because if you have an assault weapon and you're hunkered down and you want to defend yourself, they can send in a drone or one of those little robot tank things and take you out. So as Nick pointed out, who gets them? Someone buying them and immediately trying to cause horrible mischief, horrible outcomes, horrible deaths. And we've seen too much in this country. Again, it's not a hard concept. We had this, we could live with it. If there's someone who feels the need to practice and fire these things, you can set up something where they can go to a range, get one under a controlled circumstance, shoot at targets, and leave it locked up wherever they left. But when they get out into society, horrible things happen, and we've seen it time and time and time and time again. I don't know. You might be right. I think it gets through the House. I don't know if it's going to get through the Senate. But if the majority of votes are there in both chambers and the governor's willing to sign the bill, give him the bill to sign, and join where the whole country was for a very long period of time.
I don't think you'd find many Republicans who would be opposed to trying to find a way to stop these crazy people with guns. It's just a matter of solving it. I don't know why we haven't tried harder to solve it. You know, maybe it's, I've heard theories, you know, it's the video game culture that we have now. People are just sort of becoming part of video game reality, and if you're crazy enough, I suppose you could think, well, it's all reality, so I'll just go out and do my thing like I did on my game board. It's just.
I don't know what it is, Nick. There's an underlying mental health issue that causes. That
see,
contributes to people engaging in these horrible acts. So let's take away the things that make the acts even more horrible.
I don't think that'll
otherwise.
solve it, though. I really
Well, if
don't
they're going to
think
go
it
in and
would.
throw rocks, we're going to have a lot more survivors than if they're going to go shoot, you know,
Yeah.
100 bullets a minute.
So,
Yeah, I think there's an outrage culture out there, and what do we do to solve the outrage culture? I mean, people can't even talk to each other anymore. I mean, this is an unusual show where you bring
I was
in.
just thinking that, right?
You bring, it's an unusual show
We're
where.
not,
we're going to run
Where-
the Kumbaya music right
Yeah,
underneath.
no,
We're going to edit that in at the end.
Where we can actually engage in discussion.
And there's not a lot of
we've-
that discussion
And
going
there's not
on.
a lot of that. I think we need to get back to civility. And I think that you'll see a change in culture when you can be civil with one another and you can agree to disagree. And just have the right mindset. This is a wonderful country that we live in. It's a wonderful country with freedom. And how much of are you going to allow government to impinge on your freedom? But we've got to get back to being able to talk about these issues.
Yeah, well, we'll keep track of it as the session goes on. Governor McKee, a couple of weeks ago, nearing his 100 days in office of this new term, rolled out a plan he calls Learn 365 RI. It's an incentive to try to get kids really up to speed and try to be on par with Massachusetts. We do a lot of comparisons with Massachusetts. I've heard mixed reactions to this plan, Sue.
Ho-hum.
Ho-hum.
That's the way I felt about it, ho-hum. A lot of promises without a lot of details to it.
And relying on no benchmarks and relying on the municipal leaders rather than the school people.
Right, and you know, you already have students that fall behind that are entitled to 230 days of school, so they're entitled to summer programs well beyond the 180 days that students are in. So his 365-day thing, you know, giving money to things, where's the accountability, what's the point? And extra time doesn't actually mean that the kids are going to catch up. Extra time. Put in the right kinds of programs. You know, I'm big on literacy. If kids are not learning how to read by the time they're in third grade, they are so far behind already. So are we putting in the right literacy programs to make sure that these students can read? That's a great way for them to catch up. Reading recovery type programs. What are we doing to make sure that these students can leave? But throwing money at the problem, giving extra time with no accountability, no benchmarks. And I know, Bob, you're part of the new nonprofit.
Literally
Well,
part of the new
honestly,
profit
to me,
breaking
it's,
today.
at first blush, it looked like glorified summer camp.
Right.
No, obviously I don't feel that way. I support and defend the program. I was there at the press conference, and as Sue says, I will be involved with the outside nonprofit,
Why didn't the governor
not the
answer
government.
questions from the reporters afterwards? He scurried away.
I don't know why he didn't answer questions from the
You would
reporters.
think he'd
and
want
I
to
always,
answer
as
all
you
the
know,
questions that everybody
well, and
had about
I'll
it.
answer as many as I can right now. I think that this is where I had and I talked about this in Ian Donis's column last week, where I had a difference with the governor in the past of municipal involvement in education is municipal involvement to take over education. This is municipal involvement to supplement what goes on in the K-12 schools and have them much more fully engaged in the way the governor was going back to his time in the Boys and Girls Club in Cumberland
And
for
then
everything
and then
that
the
happens
charter
out of
schools.
school.
And then charter
And
schools.
yeah, I didn't like that solution, but I like the everything else solution. The way I describe it to folks, good teachers, whether or not there's an individualized education plan for every student, have one in their head. So you might have written plans for the kids in your class where it's required by law, but you have one in your head like extra math here, extra reading here, keep these two apart because they're both great students, but if they sit together, they're going to talk to each other, whatever you want to do. I want to see that taken outside the school day. So I want them to be able to say, with assistance of the school, say, Bob needs, what Sue just pointed out, isn't reading at grade level in third grade. Let's give additional resources outside the school to do it. They'll say, Nick's a great student, but he would be better off getting out and running around playing basketball every day. So let's make sure he gets to the Boys and Girls Club and gets, get some of those athletic skills honed. And that will make him more motivated when he comes into school. Let's make sure that every one of those things we identify for 140,000 students, I don't care where they come from, public school, charter school, private school, home school, parochial school, doesn't matter. They're kids within our range of responsibility. And if we can engage 39 cities and towns to take what they're doing well and do it better,
It's a big if.
well, it's a place to start.
Well, let me-
and then tie
Fantasy.
back the metrics.
Fantasy.
Nick, go ahead and
And
jump
where
in.
are the parents in this? Because
Hopefully fully involved.
yeah, but where are the parents? And that is a big mistake, having been through the school system and knowing there are certain teachers that, as a parent, you would say to them, what does my student need? What does my child need? Because I'm more than willing to supplement them at home. And you get pushback from some of these teachers that say, I don't have time. And the union says, I only have to work so many hours. I don't even have
The union
time to have a
doesn't say that. The union says that
Let me
actually
tell
people
you.
are entitled to outside lives, but
Yeah.
the parents often push back and say, well,
No.
it's not my job.
No.
So
No.
let's make sure
Yeah.
that they work together.
And they should, but there is nowhere in his plan, in his 365 plan, where the word parents are ever mentioned.
So I
We're going to let Nick talk now.
No, that's
Because
okay.
we could go on.
Nick's going to be the
gonna do
arbitration.
CD.
We're bringing Nick in for arbitration here. Go ahead.
Oh, good. You can be the mediator.
I'll try to mediate. So I read the plan. I read as much about it as I could. I give the governor credit for trying, but the reception seemed to be that it's very mushy. One of the mushier things that's not good is that it's not clear how much money local communities are going to be asked to pitch in. And they're going to create a new nonprofit. One thing we don't need in this state is another new nonprofit, new nonprofit
volunteer.
that is really a substitute for government. And I want to say this too. I am in favor, I was always in favor of this when I was in the General Assembly. We should pay teachers more. We should pay them a lot more because that's where you get the best teaching, by making the job a reward, status. You get the best teachers when you offer more money. Maybe not every teacher, but a lot more talent. And we've never done that. So I think that it's in big trouble if they don't say how much it's going to cost communities, this plan.
I can answer
the
two
Rhode
things.
Island
All right,
60.
Quickly, I
there's
can
one
answer
thing I want to get to.
The
Go ahead.
nonprofit is not going to be doing government things. The nonprofit will be doing nonprofit things. And since I just got elected president of the board of the nonprofit, breaking news earlier today, I can guarantee you that.
You've got a conflict.
But yeah. But no, I retired, so I don't have a conflict.
Okay.
But I'm going to go back because you say we should pay teachers more. Now that I know I've got support, where I'm going back.
You know what?
Something.
Final word.
Is that the governor was very bold when he was the mayor. Like, he believed in school choice. He believed in charter schools. I think he's just become mushy on this.
All right.
Yes.
Mushy
Yes.
might be the word.
Mushy.
Mushy.
All right.
That was my
Listen,
word.
before
Sorry.
we
I
get
think he's bold.
to outrages, we have to go to the stuffy. All right. Let's bring this up on coming to an airport not near you, but maybe if you're traveling. This is what the Commerce Department gave us. This woman, it doesn't seem to be anybody else traveling in this airport. She's next to a giant stuffy. And this apparently is going to want to make people come to Rhode Island. So we don't have a lot of time about this, but let's do a little bullet poll here. Let's begin with Councilor Gorham. What do you think about this?
It looks like an oversized and not very delicious potato scoop stuffed into a shell. A scoop of mashed potatoes, that is.
Mashed potatoes with a
mashed-
little
it's
paprika
just-
on top?
I don't know. I don't think it's going to get a lot of people to come or stay. in
Would
Rhode
that,
Island.
if you're in Los Angeles, would that make you immediately hop on a plane to Rhode Island?
No, I don't think so. I don't
Robert?
think so.
I would need no incentive to leave Los Angeles to come to Rhode Island, but I will
That's a
say
whole different issue.
that I prefer my stuffies warmer, not cooler.
Oh my goodness! There we go. Is this the cooler?
There's your outtake,
Oh
people.
my
There's the
goodness!
outtake.
Cooler or warmer? What do you think, Ms. Cienki?
I think this is a perfect example of Family Guy here, a giant quahog at these airports with paprika.
That would get
sprinkled.
people to come if you had
Yeah.
Peter Griffin saying,
Peter Griffin, come to
home of
Rhode
Quahog,
Island.
Rhode
I mean, this is such a beautiful state, and we have so much to offer. This is a joke.
Blob.
Yeah,
I said in the green room that it's the Australians' fault because if they hadn't stolen America's Cup, we could have had a sailboat there
Right.
still.
Well, then you could do a whole hour on, do you put charisse in it? Is it onions? Is it celery? What would you put in, right?
Most people from out of state wouldn't even know what this was.
See, I love you got the out of state. Tell me the word that begins with a Q. How do you pronounce it?
Quahog?
It could be quahog, it can be quahog, or it can be quahog.
Quahog, yes.
Right?
That's the
Quahog.
more
Quahog? Is
obscure,
that the Western Rhode Island
Yeah,
pronunciation?
there's a lot
That's
of
the West
quahogs
Canard
out in
pronunciation.
Foster, Gloucester. And,
All right, let's do this. Let's get to outrageous and/or kudos. Mr. Walsh, we'll begin with you this week.
Kind of tie in a few thoughts. I want to express my condolences to the family and many, many friends of Senator Mary Ellen Goodwin. She served for a very long time and put up a hell of a fight against cancer. Today's the day we're filming on the day of her wake. The funeral's tomorrow. But I also want to say this because it ties into something earlier. When my friends Mirth York and Rhoda Perry were elected to the Senate, they were worried about going up there because there were going to be people they disagreed with. And, they're afraid because Mary Ellen was a moderate Democrat and they were, more progressive liberal Democrats, as we said back then. And Rhoda especially, because she served for a long time, became very, very close with Mary Ellen. And there was a great camaraderie there. And Sue referenced it earlier. People could disagree and be good, solid, loyal friends and, have robust disagreements. And we've got to get back to that. I thought about that earlier today when I saw the former Matt Brown folks attacking someone who they agreed with on the issues over, what petty personal differences. And in the spirit and honor of Mary Ellen Goodwin, let's get some collegiality and civility back into the system.
I'm into that. Sue, what do you have?
Yeah, and to further that, I agree with you. Mary Ellen served for over 36 years, and it was really nice to see Senator Jessica De La Cruz. She wrote a very
classy.
very
Yes.
classy statement, so that's good. But my kudos is happy birthday.
Oh, look at that! He
Thank
came
you,
and
Sue.
spent his birthday with us.
I'm going to say,
Who has more fun than us?
and you're approaching that age where you get benefits, and the biggest benefit that you will receive this year is you can get a national parks pass for a lifetime.
A friend of mine emailed me that first thing this morning.
It
Said
is
I can get a
something to
lifetime
look-
National
I'm a-
Parks pass.
Full disclosure, I'm a
Fabulous.
year ahead of you. I still can't come to take that senior citizen discount. I'm not quite there yet. Although they sent me an AARP card when I
When
was
you were
48.
Yeah, me
I'm
too.
like that. If they're trying to endear themselves
Well,
to me, that's not a good way to do
To
it.
tie it all and take the discount and tip bigger.
Oh,
Yes.
there you go. You should tell Aaron Regenberg that. You have the last 45 to 60 seconds. Go
Okay.
ahead.
So where I live out in western Rhode Island, a lot of people love throwing out beer cans and coffee cups and everything along the road. And I've been cleaning it up for years. 2 days ago, I went out to, I went home early, got my garbage bags ready. It's like a half a mile that I clean every year. It was all cleaned up. I don't know who went through there, but I just want to say kudos. It was absolutely.
Do you have a little sign that says this stretch of the highway adopted by Nick Gorham? Do you have a sign out there?
No, I don't, and I don't know why someone came through and picked up the garbage because
kudos
I'm
to
as
them.
far out in the sticks as you can get.
3 kudos.
Yeah.
All
I
right.
felt
Thank you.
sorry for you. They're like, this poor guy is out here every week.
I doubt it.
All right, folks, that is all the time we have. We appreciate you joining us. Nick and Bob, happy birthday, and Sue, good to see you. Folks, come back here next week. We always have all the very latest analysis. We'll be right here with it for you as a lively experiment continues. Have a great weekend.
A Lively Experiment is generously underwritten by
Hi, I'm John Hazen-White Jr. For over 30 years, A Lively Experiment has provided insight and analysis of the political issues that face Rhode Islanders. I'm a proud supporter of this great program and Rhode Island PBS.